And now, another episode of Donny Boast, Friday Football Flash, with your host, Donny Boast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is week 5 in the NFL, which means we are 1/4 our way through this dismal and abysmal, pathetic season, which was again kicked off last night by another disgusting game, with the Arizona Cardinals almost pooping themselves at the Santa Clara Yorks, who once again embarrassed themselves on national television. The Santa Clara Yorks are terrible. They are the quintessential example of what happens when a punk owner inherits a team and starts playing it like it's his fantasy football team. He is a buffoon, he is a fool, and he is very paranoid and stupid. The Santa Clara Yorks are a disgusting franchise, and they are a far cry of whatever their predecessor was. That name has now been forgotten and washed away in time. This team, this franchise, will forever suffer so long as Jed York is at the helm and that stadium still stands empty week to week. Disgusting. We will examine some of the top teams in the NFL as we are 1/4 of the way through, and we will look at the bottom feeders. And we will likely ignore most of what is in between. Teams that will never be good, probably never have been good, and have no intention of ever really being good. One of those teams in particular is the Houston Texans. We don't know who they are, we don't know what they do. At home they seem to be decent. On the road, they're a laugher. They're terrible. They're all over the place. And now J.J. Watt is officially out for the season. They're in even bigger trouble. If you move around the AFC, though, you will see that there are 3 teams at the top. And they just so happen to be the 3 teams at the top of the entire league. That is the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You also may notice that these 3 teams have stable ownership, great GMs, good coaching, and solid quarterbacking. And I'll give a little nod over there to Mr. Simeon, and of course, Gary Kubiak when I say solid quarterbacking. He's well coached, the youngster, and that's why he's effective. It's no mistake that Gary Kubiak is over there running the show. These things do not happen in a vacuum, everybody. They are the model of how to be consistently successful in the NFL. Topping out the 4th spot, I would put the Minnesota Vikings, a team which traditionally will find a way to lose, and they still might. You have to call them a contender because they're well built all around in the trenches and whatnot, and now they have the quarterback who is able to get something going if they really need it. Maybe that 5th spot can go to Philadelphia. We don't know who they are, we don't know what they're capable of, except that they're very, very good right now. How that will continue into the season, we don't know. There's still an X factor. They may prove people wrong, they may not. We just don't know what you're going to get out of them because we really don't know what's going on over there in Philadelphia. And as good as the young quarterback might be, he's still a rookie. And the big test will be next year. He won't win the Super Bowl this year, everybody, but if he can do what he did this year, next year, then we can start talking him and praising him because we don't want to have another Blake Bortles incident on our hands. And there's a team that is just in the mediocre realm and maybe lower to the bottom is Jacksonville. And we can say this for so many teams in the NFL. Notice we don't put Arizona in the top 5. They can't be in the top 5 because they're not good. The Green Bay Packers, on the other hand, might have enough to make a wild card spot, but I don't see them going all the way either. They just don't have the depth, and they're getting a little bit older as these years go on. And the bottom feeders of this league, on the other hand, are very entertaining. They tell a classic tale. The classic tale of how to suck. Those teams are simple. You can just look at the records, but even if you look at the records, sometimes it doesn't even tell you the whole story. The worst team in the league, of course, is the Cleveland Browns. And this is no accident, this is no mistake, and this is no surprise. The Cleveland Browns have been awful for a very, very, very long time. The Santa Clara Yorks are probably the second worst team in the league. They don't know what they're doing. As we said at the top of the show, they're just absolutely abysmal. There's nothing worth noting on them whatsoever. And I'm sorry, I said it before, I say it again, you can't trust a fat man who preaches nutrition. Chip Kelly's offense doesn't work in the NFL. He looks befuddled out there. He looks surprised that he's getting picked on so easily. Yes, Gabbett's missing some throws, but that doesn't really mean anything if the system just simply doesn't work. There's other crappy teams in the league, and one of them is Chicago. Chicago, cheap owner, bad GM. Now they have some decent coaching in there, but they can't seem to get it going as they're supposedly in a rebuilding effort. But they've been in a rebuilding effort since the 1986 season, and don't tell me that time they went to the Super Bowl counts, because anytime you put Rex Grossman as your quarterback and put all your faith in him, you got something wrong. I mean, they're just stupid. There's not much else to say except possibly the surprise right now is the Los Angeles Lambs, who have woken up out of their slumber to say, hey, we can compete, we can do some things, we can get it going. Very interesting that they'll be facing Buffalo at home this week, another team that is now jockeying for position as the best team in New York after at one point being the worst team in New York. Only a few weeks later can we say that Buffalo is number one in New York because the Giants are once again sleepwalking at the top of the season. And the way the Eagles are playing, and the way the Cowboys are playing, the Giants may not get to the playoffs in their little rinky-dink fashion where they like to leak in at the last minute. The Oakland Raiders are holding on pretty well as a preseason prediction of being the hot team this year. So far, so good. Little hiccup here, little hiccup there. But as things get closer to Thanksgiving, this is still a team to watch. Miami is terrible. They are absolutely abysmal, and I will go as far as putting them on the bottom shelf because they don't seem to be wanting to ever do anything to improve. Year after year, coaches come, quarterbacks go, players come, players go. They haven't had a running back since Larry Tsonka. I don't know what to say about Miami. They're terrible. They're just a terrible team, and it's sad what's happening over in Florida right now, but that doesn't excuse how terrible they are. In fact, every team in Florida is terrible when you think about it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are no good. For a long time, they were never any good, and they seem to be resorting back to that form. There's not much happiness in the NFL, folks. Most of it is pretty bad.